This is the Glenn Beck Program.
Hello, America, and welcome to the Glenn Beck Program and to The Blaze. This is the network that you are building. We have an incredibly intense and powerful program tonight, and one that you won't see anyplace else. If enough people see tonight's program, I believe it just might move the national conversation. Because it comes from deep inside. After Gabby Giffords was shot, we policed language, and we made people feel bad for saying the word target. It was ridiculous, but that's what everybody in the media said we should do. After Sandy Hook, the media fueled total paranoia on guns, and it has gotten so far out of control. 2 6-year-old kids in Baltimore were suspended from school because they were playing cops and robbers in recess, and they were using, their fingers as pretend guns. This 5th grade girl in Philadelphia, she was searched in front of her classmates. Think of this. Because what she brought to school was this. They called her in front of class and they searched her to make sure she didn't have another gun on her. They told her they'd have to call the police. It's a piece of paper shaped like a gun, I guess. Paper. She had left it in her pocket. She got up to throw it away in the trash and she got into trouble. And now, watch, she's having nightmares.
You would have called me a murderer.
I'm waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning and my daughter's in the bathroom crying. She's saying I'm having nightmares.
Can you imagine? They're terrifying this sweet little girl by making her feel like a murderer as her classmates are calling her. Now, is this out of control political correctness, or is this something more insidious? I used to believe up until recently that it was political correctness and stupidity. But it's not. It is control. We are training our children to have an irrational fear of guns. And that's what's helping this national conversation go down a crazy trail. And meanwhile, the left is being viewed as the knights in shining armor with all of the solutions on the best way to save children and prevent another Sandy Hook from ever happening. Even the president said this.
Any of these neighborhoods could be our own. So we have to come together, and we're going to have to take meaningful action to prevent more tragedies like this from happening. Regardless.
I got to tell you, I couldn't agree more. Let's take meaningful action to prevent anything like Sandy Hook happening again. But we're not taking meaningful action. We're not even looking at the facts. Adam Lanza was a Sandy Hook shooter. He said he wanted to feel something. Well, what does that tell you? That's not about guns. That's about something in here. He also said he wanted to go out and kill as many people as possible. Well, if that is your goal, you look for targets. Where can you kill as many people possible? Well, let me show you the targets in his neighborhood in Sandy Hook. Okay, there's a library, there's 2 shopping centers, and there's Sandy Hook Elementary. They're all together. There's his house. Well, where did he go? Was it just that the school was the first target? No, I believe this was the target best suited for the objective because it was the only gun-free zone. Let's go to Aurora, Colorado. Remember this guy? The killer lived in the area and he had just been all ratcheted up by Hollywood. And I mean, he was obsessed with Batman. Hello, see the hair? He decided he was going to attack moviegoers. Now, there were multiple theaters in his area, and they were nearly identical distances apart. He lives up here. Cinema Latino is there, Cinema Grill, and then Century City. Century City is actually the furthest one from his house. So why did he pick that one instead of the Cinema Grill or Cinema Latino? Why did he go to Century City? Well, Cinemark movie theater is the only one with a gun-free zone sign right there in the front. Well, that's announcing that you can kill a bunch of people and nobody can do anything about it. In fact, these seemingly random mass shootings have something in common. Large amounts of unarmed people, usually in a gun-free zone. Where is the place where Americans, the average American, has the easiest immediate access to loaded guns? Think of this, because what they're saying is there's no background check. People get too easy to get guns. Okay, where can you go where you can get a loaded gun with an ID? Where can you do that? And where can you go where there's lots of people around? Well, gun ranges. They're everywhere. And I can walk into a gun range, I can put my driver's license down, and I can say I want to rent that gun for a little while, and I'm going to go in and shoot. Have you ever noticed that there are no mass shootings at gun ranges? We just had a shooting 2 weeks ago at a rifle range from somebody who was psychotic and out of his mind, but he killed 2 people. And that was a rifle range where he was set apart from the regular gun range. You're going to have somebody killed, but not a mass shooting, because everyone's carrying a weapon. In the end, many of these killers end up taking their own life when the police arrive, when these mass shootings, because they're not looking for a fight, they're looking for an easy kill. They're looking to make a name for themselves. And a gun-free zone is the murderer's invitation. All of the so-called meaningful action is actually putting our children and our wives and us at more risk, but especially our children and women. The University of Colorado now is advising women who are being attacked by a violent rapist that vomiting or urinating may also convince the attacker to leave you alone. Well, I don't know about you, but I can't vomit on Will. Can you? The University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh tells women to cry or create a scene of emotional or mental instability. Fake a faint. Let me just stop here for a second. Would you ever say this to your daughter? Well, fake your fainting. I want to show you these arrogant men, Democratic legislators in Colorado, who are trying to lecture women on what they should do. Watch.
There are some gender inequities on college campuses. This is true. And universities have been faced with that situation for a long time. That's why we have call boxes. Oh. That's why we have safe zones. That's why we have the whistles.
Whistles and safe zones.
Because you just don't know who you're going to be shooting at.
Right.
And you don't know if you feel like you're going to be raped, or if you feel like someone's been following you around, or if you feel like you're in trouble, and when you may actually not be, that you pop out that gun and you pop around at somebody.
Okay. I just want to point out that he's going farther than the rape whistles. He's actually telling you, Gavin DeBecker, who's one of the best security guys in the world, wrote a book called The Gift of Fear. He's actually telling you to forget your fear. Go get a whistle. If you're fearful, you're probably wrong. If whistles and safe zones were the answer, well, we could end all global violence and just declare Earth a safe zone. Why don't we just declare Israel a safe zone and give all the Israelis whistles? Mom and Dad, if your daughter called you and she said she was afraid, would you send her to a class to learn to use a whistle or a gun? So why are you allowing this to happen? Why is it we make these things seem so far removed. We can sit here and clinically talk about rape whistles and call boxes for women who are going to be raped because we're only talking about prevention, so it's a million miles away. But when it's the aftermath, we show the up close and personal of every kid. They do that because it's the only way to sell you gun control. The left will show you the pictures of the dead children, and then they will give you the false promise from gun control and whistles. When we were forced to have a dialogue as a nation over universal birth control and free health care, we were made to listen to the testimony of college women who found it very hard not to have sex on a Friday night without a free condom. And if we said, hey, well, wait a minute, why are we doing it? That was a war on women. But then you have these men with these ridiculous ideas on college campuses, not about a condom because they want to have sex. They're talking about get a whistle because somebody might rape them. And this isn't a war on women? Why is it nobody asks survivors about the realities of rape? What do you think Amanda Collins might think of gun control? While she was in college, she was a gun owner. She had a concealed carry license. But her campus was declared a gun-free zone, so she wasn't allowed to carry. She was on her way to the car when a man jumped out from between the cars and held a pistol to her head. Amanda was helpless, and the attacker knew it. As he proceeded to assault her there in the parking lot, Amanda could see police cars. It wasn't a call box, it was an actual police car 50 feet away. She looked at it during her rape. Nobody was nearby. After the assault, Amanda's attacker went on to rape at least 2 other women, and then he raped and murdered a 3rd woman. Do you think she might have found a gun useful? How about the dead woman? How does Amanda feel about gun control? Why doesn't anybody ask what Kim Weeks thinks? She awoke one night, her face being forcefully held down by an intruder. She had very few options available to her. Kim told her attacker she had herpes, just like the University of Colorado says to do. Somehow or another, that didn't work. After enduring a horrific, violent assault, Kim's quick thinking saved her life. Kim told the attacker she would not report him and actually talked to him for about an hour. I can't even imagine how hard that must have been, face to face with evil, but she kept her wits. And then, when he asked for a drink, she told him the wrong cabinet so his fingerprints would be left. Incredible actions. And because of those actions, he left her alive, and he left evidence. He was arrested 3 weeks later while planning his next rape. He was scouting an apartment complex. Do you think it's wise to say, well, yeah, but they caught him and she was really quick thinking. So, honey, if it ever happens to you, you just get him talking for an hour and offer him a drink. What do you think Kim thinks? What does Wanda Mills think? She was out for a jog when out of nowhere a knife-wielding man jumped at her and dragged her into the nearby woods. She was tied up by her wrist and ankles and neck. She was violently tortured and raped for 6 solid hours. She was tormented by how close the outside world was. She said she could smell the bacon cooking in people's houses, and they were oblivious to what was going on. She prayed and she prayed, and she even forgave him during the attack. Despite everything, she mustered the strength to talk to her attacker and actually convince him that one day they might fall in love. This dirtbag's now serving 6 life terms. On gun control, what do you think she thinks? Or how about Felicia Smith? What does she think? She was raped at the age of 19 when her apple juice was drugged at a party, and then she was raped a separate time by her trainer. He had convinced her to allow to sleep on a couch after the pair had been hanging out watching a movie. In the morning, he wrapped his hands around her neck and raped her. She locked herself in the bathroom. He broke into the bathroom with a knife, and then he just took a shower as if everything was normal. She has to live with the extra pain. Her attacker never went to jail. And what does she think? And quite honestly, what does What does Julie Weil think? Julie was at the safest place of all. She was picking up her 2 children from daycare at her church. Her son was 8 months old and her daughter was 3. It was a Wednesday. It was noon. She was in the parking lot. She said she was hit by something. She thought it was a brick. Then she heard a question. Do you believe in God? Yes, she replied. Good. Then you will forgive me for what I'm about to do to you and your 2 children. He removed her clothes and repeatedly raped her 4 times in front of her children. They were right there next to her, within inches. During the attack, he actually said to her, every time you look at your son, I want you to remember how this feels. Where was the call box? She only had a whistle. This is the evil that unarmed women face. Those 5 women, what do you suppose their view is of gun control versus the call boxes and the rape whistles? Well, we'll ask them, because all 5 of them are here, and they join me next. First of all, ladies, thank you for coming on the show. I don't know the best way to proceed here, and we were just talking about on the air that women and men react differently to this topic, and men get a little enraged, and I think it's because we're dads, and or hopefully loving husbands, and we want to kill people like this because it's kind of our duty to protect, and it's so hard to understand evil. Your story in the church parking lot is, I don't know how your husband did it. I don't know how your husband did it.
He is definitely collateral damage in everything that has happened. I mean, people don't think about it. They think about me, they think about the kids, but what it did to my husband and his psyche to know that he thought that we were at home. He thought the kids were at preschool. And to think that we were in the Everglades with a knife-wielding maniac who was threatening both his whole family unit, it enraged him to a point I had never seen, and I had known him forever. And it just brings out a side where, all he wanted to do was protect us.
Is there a difference? This is a horrible question. Is there a difference? Is there a level of evil, or is it all exactly the same? Because the evil of the guy breaking into your bathroom and just like taking a shower, like, not a problem, not a problem. Evil. But the evil of having your children there and then saying, I mean, there's evil and there's evil.
He said to my daughter as he was raping me, he said, what did your mother do to make God hate you so much?
Was he like a twisted religious freak?
It's interesting. He told me that his mother was a prostitute and his dad was a John, and he had grown up on the street. Come to find out, his dad was an ATF agent for the federal government, and his mom was the church secretary. They grew up, he grew up in an upper, middle class family, had all the benefits. And I don't know what, the evil is the only way I can explain it.
What was, may I ask, your attacker, what was the deal in him? Because he just seems dead to the world.
He was really friendly, very charming.
Angry, or just didn't, like yours, angry, but yours is just dead inside?
Just at that moment when he was attacking me. But he was really nice and really kind, and a life of a really nice guy.
Unbelievable.
There's no particular face to a rapist.
No.
I mean, after talking with these ladies, each one's different and they're all individual. There's no stereotypical rapist. You can't put a face to them and say, and I think that's one of the things we're all exposed to. You don't know who it is that's going to attack you.
Right.
And to listen to some of the things that you said in the opening, you know, when safe zones and whistles, and he may not be intending to attack you. I think to take away your instincts is one of the worst things to do.
Oh my gosh.
It
I
is
hear
the
that and
thing,
they say don't.
the one thing that protects you.
Did you have fear? Who had fear? Who had an inkling prior to something's not wrong? Did any of you guys have inklings?
15 seconds before
15
he swooped
seconds.
down and put that knife in
Right,
my
but
throat.
you had inkling.
Yes.
You had an inkling. You have an inkling? No, you
I
were
woke
asleep.
up.
Yeah.
Yep.
You had an inkling at all?
No, he blitzed me from behind. I was just buckling my kids in their car seat.
Did you have an inkling?
Yeah, it was the same thing. I was grabbed from behind because I was actually, excuse me, my sister and I were both made to get our second-degree black belts in order to drive when we turned 16. So that took 10 years.
That's a good dad.
Yeah, my mom and dad.
I'm going to make that red. My oldest daughter's 24, but she's going to have, I'm taking her driver's license away until she gets her black belt.
I can say at the time I didn't appreciate it, but now that I have a daughter of my own,
Yeah.
I think that wasn't such a bad idea on my parents' part. But all that to say that I took all the precautions. I walked with a group of people to the parking garage, surveyed the area, didn't see any immediate threat, approached my vehicle at an angle, but I didn't see the man that was hunched behind a wheel well to a truck. And so as I passed him at an angle, as I was surveying my vehicle to make sure that no one was in or around it, which was ingrained in me during my martial arts training, he came out from behind me. But the instant it happened, I knew.
The mere fact that we even have to survey an area,
Right.
walking somewhere, we already know we're in danger.
Okay, so people would say that a gun wouldn't have helped you guys. Would a gun, you had a gun, didn't you, in the house?
No, I didn't at the time, and
Okay.
I was only 20, so I wasn't able to have my concealed permit at that point. But it was one of those things where immediately when I woke up, it wasn't like he was on top of me raping me immediately, but I knew that was going to happen. And I knew that it could very easily escalate into him killing me. And there was no doubt in my mind that that was an imminent threat, not one.
Would a gun helped any of you?
You know, that is the unanswered question of my life.
Yeah.
And it will continue and remain to be the unanswered question of my life because I had my concealed weapons permit. And as a law-abiding citizen, I left my firearm at home because I couldn't even have it in my vehicle.
Because you were in a safe zone.
Right, I was in a gun-free zone. And my attacker didn't care because he placed a pistol to my temple, clicked off the safety, and told me not to say anything. And I saw in his eyes that he had the propensity to kill.
So what would you say to people who say, well, none of you guys may not, I mean, nothing would have changed. Maybe nothing would have changed.
But for other people, it might. Every rape is unique. Everybody's situation is different. And for me, it probably wouldn't have changed things. I had my kids with me. He was so much bigger than I was. And I'm not sure it really would have changed my situation. But there are plenty of people out there where it would. And so why take that away?
Right, well, and I would say that for me, I mean, I've replayed the whole thing in my mind over and over again. It's kept me up at night. And without wanting to go into too much detail, I know that at some point I would have been able to stop my attack. And as a result, 2 other rapes would have been prevented and a young life would have been saved.
Okay, you were the quintessential, I mean, it would have.
I think it would have changed everything for my family, for the city I'm from Reno. It would have saved a lot of people, a lot of heartache, and a lot of despair.
Okay, when we come back, I'd like to kind of go through the checklist of what they say you can do. And you go over because I can't make myself vomit. Can you guys make yourself vomit on will? I've never even heard of that. I mean, I think I'd paid money to see, hey, come Saturday night, we're going to see this guy, he can vomit on will. I mean, that'd be a pretty amazing feat. So when we come back, I want to go through the list and you tell me do any of these make sense? Are any of these logical? Or are these just stupid men telling women, oh yeah, well, honey, just get to a call box? Back in a minute. My family and I watched the first 2 episodes of a show that none of the networks watched and none of the networks wanted. They didn't need to watch it. They knew they didn't want it because it was called The Bible. From Mark Burnett, one of the biggest TV guys out there today. It is absolutely amazing. So amazing, I'm personally paying for this commercial. They didn't hire me to say this. I want you to watch this on the History Channel this Sunday night with your family. Don't miss it. The Bible on the History Channel Sunday night. I wish you were here for the conversation we're having in the commercial breaks, because I'm learning a ton. And there's nobody here. You would not sit down with your daughter, and you have a new one on the way.
Yeah.
You would not sit down at a table and say, hey, honey, just vomit on yourself.
No. No. I mean, just the thought of even potentially having that conversation with my precious little girl makes me sick to my stomach.
Urinate on yourself. Tell him you have herpes.
Didn't work.
You tried that.
I lied and told him that I had herpes, and it did not stop him. As we were just saying, it's a
power
It's
thing.
a power and control
And if
crime.
they're going to go,
they
it
wanna
doesn't
rape you,
matter.
they're gonna
These
do it.
little obstacles, these little hurdles aren't going to stop somebody who's hell-bent on.
Nope.
And we're not talking about, because people think, I guess, it's about sex, but it's about power, and it gets worse every time. You all believe that I don't know, have you thought about what your rapist has done since?
All the time, especially on the nights that were really bad, and I would be like, why am I thinking about this man so much? And I was just be praying that, for some reason he wouldn't be out there attacking again, because he's free. He can do whatever he wants to do.
And they get worse because they know it.
These guys know what they're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, my perpetrator had raped before in another state, and he plea bargained the rape. Well, you either raped or you don't. How do you plea bargain a rape? You either rape a woman or you don't. So that's the courts. So he got away with it, and when he raped me, he knew exactly what he was doing. He tried to clean me of all DNA evidence. He told me he was going to kill me. I felt sure I was going to die before it was all over with. He told me more than once he was going to kill me. So before he left the woods, he douched me twice. Then he took a knife and he took my hand out and he pulled my hand out and one finger. And I thought, oh dear God, he's going to start cutting me up. And he started cleaning my fingernails one by one, removing the DNA. He didn't want to leave any evidence behind, but thank goodness he had forgotten. And he'd made one mistake. And the DNA is how we nailed him.
I don't want to ask you the mistake, because I don't want, God forbid somebody someday watches this down the line and is gathering tips, God forbid.
And as far as vomiting and urinating, well, each of us is different. Imagine being traumatized so quickly and with no notice, you're just traumatized. What does your body do anyway? What were all of you thinking about? I know what I was thinking about. And then my body reacted too. My bowels reacted, everything. But I held it. I had the presence of mind. I didn't want to mess on myself. Later, I asked the perpetrator, who had a rope around my neck and through my mouth, would he give me some slack so I could use the bathroom, because I spent 6.5 hours with him and I couldn't hold it any longer. Lucky for me, he says, well, I don't have anything for you to wipe with. And I said, well, the wrapper, because he had a ham biscuit. And the wrapper.
Did you know at the time?
Did I know what?
Did you know that, because I'm guessing that's
no, not at the time, but
yeah.
I also took the police after I got away from him and he let go of me. I took off running and I ran back to my hotel, and of course I was missing and hadn't shown up for my business meetings. So the hotel parking lot was covered with police officers and my coworker, and they said, we can do one of two things, Miss Mills. The detective says we can take you to the hospital right now, we can process, or you can go back to the scene and you can help us gather all the evidence. If you do, there's a better chance of us catching him. So for the next 3.5 hours, I went back
Oh
to
my
different
gosh.
sites in the woods. And
You all
we
have to do that?
processed.
Yeah.
I had the presence of mind to think that, my body is now a walking crime scene,
Right.
where every place that he touched is just burned into my memory, and I need somebody to collect the evidence as quickly as possible. I walked on the side of the hallway because the carpets has just been cleaned, and I could still see the foot impressions into my roommate's room, and she had been sleeping through the entire time.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, we were talking earlier about the safe zones. My apartment should have been a safe zone. Doors are locked, windows are closed, and he still managed to get in there. Do you really think an imaginary boundary on a campus is going to stop somebody from walking over the line and raping any of us?
Do you guys ever get angry at not the attackers, but what you see on television? Do you
Yes.
ever
Oh,
sit
yeah.
there?
Absolutely.
I get mad all the time. I keep going back to this statistic that only 3% of rapists ever spend a single day in jail. 97 people who rape get up the next morning with the ability and the empowerment that they're going to go out and do it again, because they know the way our culture is, they're probably not going to get caught because they're either going to intimidate the woman into not coming forward. It's just mind-blowing to me.
So what is the thing that you what are you seeing on TV that just you go blind?
Well, I can say for myself with the suggestion of, well, that's why we have call boxes. That's a really nice sentiment that gives a false sense of security. But I can tell you that as I was on the ground on that parking garage floor, being straddled by my rapist, a call box above my head would not have done me one bit of good.
A woman is no match for a man when it comes to his strength. And once he's attacked you, I mean, especially if he's got a gun at your head like he had at your temple, and he's clicked the safety button, what are you going to do? You're really going to go
well,
wild at that
I'm going to blow a
point.
whistle to try to get help that's not even there.
And me with a knife in my jugular, what am I going to do,
And I actually go to UNT now, and I can just imagine someone blowing a whistle and not even knowing what that is and just walking away and ignoring it.
Car alarms, everything goes off. People, you don't pay attention.
No.
You don't pay attention to noises.
I think what bothers me when I heard the quote from Representative Salazar was, first of all, he called it gender inequities in the system. That seems like a nice, pretty way to dress up rape. I mean, isn't that what he was talking about? Oh, there are gender inequities in the system. And then when he paints what women would be like if they had a firearm, pop, 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 pop. I've never been more calm, cool, and collected than when I was trying to manipulate my rapist. And I thought it through, and what are we going to do next? And you're not
trying to save your life.
You're introducing sexism into this whole argument about a woman can't handle a gun. Well, if a woman's properly trained in concealing and carrying this permit, she's just as, level-headed as a man would be in this situation.
So I'm going to wrap. So let me come back. But I want to ask you, so are you more calm? Because I can't imagine being assaulted. And I would think that I would be freaking out. But there's also a side of me that would think there would come a time when I'd be like, because I've thought about it at my house. Somebody comes up my stairs, I'm going to shoot you in the head. If you are going to hurt my children or me, I will kill you.
That's a different situation.
I know that's a different situation. So do you get to that point? Or are you? Don't answer yet because I'm getting yelled at. Let me take a quick break, and then you come back and answer that question. Back in a minute.
There are some gender inequities on college campuses. This is true. And universities have been faced with that situation for a long time. That's why we have call boxes. That's why we have safe zones. That's why we have the whistles. Because you just don't know who you're going to be shooting at. And you don't know if you feel like you're going to be raped, or if you feel like someone's been following you around, or if you feel like you're in trouble, and when you may actually not be, that you pop out that gun and you pop around at somebody.
Pop around at somebody. You feel that way? Did you guys feel like that? That you were so out of control that you would have...
I felt I had more clarity in that moment because I was fighting to keep my kids alive and to keep myself alive. And so the mental manipulation that you go through in your head, how can I do this? How can I do that? I was calm and as thoughtful as I could be. And to hear him say that a
little demeaning?
It's very demeaning. It totally introduces sexism into the whole argument because women can't handle...
How about the idea that it is a war on women if you don't want to give free contraception, because that's none of your business what they do with their body, but it's not a war on women if you say, here's a rape whistle?
It's so frustrating to me. I don't understand it. I cannot wrap my mind around that logic, because they say that the government should stay out of women's bodies and not mandate what goes on inside our bodies. That's our business. But when it comes to me as a woman protecting my body, then they want to mandate that. And they want to take away my choice to be able to protect myself the way I deem fit.
20 years ago when I was raped, every 6 minutes in this country someone was raped. Today it's every 2 minutes.
Holy cow.
We live in the Western free world where there's more education, more opportunity, and yet we're growing increasingly violent every single day, more and more violent.
It's a problem inside. Who believes in the Second Amendment?
Absolutely.
Right to bear arms, right to protect yourself.
Right to protect.
Absolutely.
Okay. The two of you almost made me promise that you could say something. You said that Joe Biden is.
Yes, that comment that he had made about, he wants his wife to go out with a double-barrel shotgun and that it'll scare somebody off. With all due respect, what's to happen when she's done with those 2 shots and they keep coming? Because do you really think that those warning shots are going to fend somebody off?
Should somebody have only 6 shots? I mean, what would you do? What would you do with a magazine with 13?
It's a slippery slope. Why would you mandate how many shots I can have?
Well, how many shots would you need? You're stopping your rapist. How many shots really would you need?
Well, that depends, again, because the rapist could be jacked up on something, and putting 4 or 5 rounds in him. He's going to still come at you.
You know my favorite answer to that question? As many as it takes.
That's right.
As many as it takes.
As many as it takes.
That's what I would say to my, if my daughter said to me, Dad, well, how many would it, and as many as it takes. I mean, I'm not going to question. I love the police chief, I think it was in Florida, they said, why would you use 62 rounds? And he said, because there weren't 63. We ran out of 62. I mean, you use what you need to use. Real quick, we have just a couple of minutes left. Anybody want to, you want to go around, anybody want to make a direct statement to anybody who happens to be watching on what they're seeing on television, what they're hearing about gun control, what they're hearing about protection of women?
One thing that wasn't mentioned in my story is that I was less than 100 feet away from the door of the police station for the university campus. Their offices had closed for the evening. It was late at night. No one was there. So it's nice that I was in a safe zone, but my attacker didn't care that I was in a safe zone, and I was left defenseless. I was denied the one equalizing factor that I had when I was met up against a man who was much larger than me, and you touched on that. I mean, women are just physically unmatched. And a firearm is the one equalizing factor. And there's a lot of hypotheticals being thrown out there of, well, what if this happens and what if that happens? Well, I'm talking about reality. This is what I lived. This is my life. And this is what I live with every day to move forward. And again, it was a one-on-one assault, which is a lot more common than a mass shooting. We don't hear about them. The majority of rapes go unreported. And so my biggest question that I have yet to get an answer from is, how does rendering me defenseless protect you against a violent crime?
Anybody else? Anything we missed here?
We could go on for hours, I'm sure, between all 5 of us. And every single one is just going to be different. And you can't sit there and make regulations and mandate something that's going to change the minute that the next rape occurs. And I mean, it's...
A gun may not have helped me when I was raped because it was a random rape. I was out jogging. I felt something over my shoulder. I looked behind me and I said, "Oh, dear God." And he swooped down on me within a matter of seconds. He was trying to catch up with me. He had run out of the woods and was trying to catch up with me. Now, could I have pulled a gun that quickly? Could I have killed my perpetrator? Probably not. But that's not to say I shouldn't own a gun. That's not to say I shouldn't have some type of protection in my life.
How many of you own guns now?
I own 2.
Okay. I own enough for the rest of you. Is gun control about guns or control?
Control.
Control. The same as rape.
There are already 50 measures on the books about gun control in this nation. Are more measures the answer? Or taking the guns? I said to the girls before we started the show, why are they taking all the guns from us? Why are they taking the guns away from us? Why do they want to take the guns away from us? Why is ammunition hard to get now?
Why?
Why? That's what I'm saying. And who's buying it up? Now, allegedly, there's all kinds of reports the government's bought $1.6 billion worth of ammunition. Why do they need that much ammunition? What are they going to do with the ammunition? What are they doing with the guns? 6 million Jews died in the Holocaust by disarming people. 6 million Jews died. We're being lulled down a path. We've gone to sleep. And we need to wake up. We've got a sick society, and the society got sick collectively because, like you said earlier, we went dead inside.
Well, ladies, thank you for helping wake people up. Back in a minute. Tomorrow, we look for more solutions. Thanks for watching. Pass it on. From Dallas, Texas. Good night, America.